Ready, get set. Oh, sorry, I'm filling in for the sports guys. They're up after our show. I'm getting mixed up. On today's Kelly and Company edition, climate change is on the mind of trailblazing artist Persimmon Blackbridge with her solo exhibition, Speak No Emergency, featuring items created from found, reclaimed, and recycled objects. Plus, let's see what's going on this year as Parasport Nation gets their year going. We'll find out how they're kicking off the year and what their discussions are when we check in with host Alex Smyth in a little bit. Ladies and gentlemen, notice, nothing recycled here.
This is Kelly and Company.
I'm joined by two fantastic co-hosts today on the program. Nazreen Abdel-Majid, of course, joining us, also handling our social media. We'll get to that in a little bit, Niz, as we've got some things to discuss. And Alicia Grace Chenier joining us. But welcome back, Alicia. Nice to have you back. And Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, Kelly.
I kind of want to know, and everybody will say to me, when are you going to stop asking about the holiday stuff? So I've kind of get tempted to say, oh, what's the one thing your family does for Christmas, for New Year's? But I think what I have to ask, bypassing and all that, and kind of being fair to everyone as we move into January, are you looking forward to a busier month? Are you recovered from last year? Did you get enough rest?
Not enough rest in the world.
No. I'm still recovering from my last semester of university, and I go back next week. So I feel like there should be 2 months off.
Wow.
I also
Go ahead,
feel
man.
like, Kelly, that we could stop talking about the holidays when I stop seeing ads about the holidays. When I see you know what I mean?
Boxing Day?
Like
the Boxing Day stuff, primarily?
the festivities, the festive type of seasonal commercials that I see on TV. When I stop seeing those, that's when we can move on to something else.
So do you ladies feel there'll be a time where those Hallmark movies will be year-round?
Oh.
I mean, they pretty much are. I would say there's gonna we're gonna be moving into from the Christmas Hallmark to the Valentine's Hallmark.
Oh, true.
Right.
I
That kind of
totally
gets ripped
forgot.
off. That kind of gets ripped off, doesn't it? Because it starts, what, a month before Valentine's? Like now
Yeah.
almost?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
man. I
totally
didn't even
forgot
think
about
of that.
Valentine's Day.
Wow.
Oh.
Okay. Well, we got a shorter show to get to, folks, and a lot of content. So I'm going to ask Alicia to discuss with us. You're going to do a review on the movie Blink. This is, well, I say movie, documentary, and this is over on Disney. Blink follows the Peltier family from Montreal, Canada, of course, as they embark on a global journey as they discover that 3 of their 4 children have retinitis pigmentosa, a rare and, well, I feel in my world it's not as rare as one would think. But anyway, a rare, incurable eye condition that leads to sufficient eye impairment, and generally for a lot of people, total impairment. Alicia, what attracted you, and I'm going to assume much the same thing that I'd be attracted to this, but is kind of that content and how it would be reflected. What got you wanting to kind of check this out and review it?
Yeah, something that, like, first of all, I never see documentaries that are about disabilities. So that was one of the first ones. But something that really captured my eyes were the parents' view and just like the trailer in general of what this movie was about. You know, the 3 children are losing their vision. And so the parents wanted to make a bucket list essentially for their children and like to travel the world and to do stuff. And one of the little boys' biggest wishes was to ride a camel and drink juice. So,
You meant at the same time?
yes, at the same time. And that was one of his things. And they're like, we're going to do it. And I think making visual memories is really the thing that caught my eye. No pun intended.
This is an interesting thing because so many of us would say, well, that's an interesting want. Isn't that kind of bleak? You know, assuming you got to do this before they lose their vision. It could be years and years and years before they do. Some are going to take that kind of viewpoint of this. Remembering, folks, this is a documentary. This is something supposed to be unique and special. So I'm going to sit back and suspend that kind of I don't want to say negative, but that kind of, well, that's not realistic for most people. That's not what this documentary is for, is it? It's really to show us different things. Now, how, in your opinion, does Blink challenge stereotypes often assumed for people with disabilities, other than riding a camel with a juice?
Yeah, I think that like it will show like I think the parents in a way are showing that their children like while actively losing their vision, they are showing their children that they can still travel and they can experience the world in different ways. While they might not be able to see some of the things, they can still, feel with their other senses. And you can still live and enjoy life with disabilities.
Do we see a lot of that in the film? I mean, I had parents that were really good at saying, "Here, put your hand here. Feel what that looks like. Hey, listen, stop, listen. What do you hear?" Was this reflected in the documentary by these parents who recognize we've got three children that live in this world, um, and I'm curious if you noticed anything about the fourth that could see and the adoption or handling of that child.
So they did not go much into that. It was more based on the trip. They didn't really go much into the extensive information about their sight loss, and I would have liked to see more of that. They really mainly focused on like achieving those bucket list goals, which
Right.
is
Yep.
great, but I feel like they could have had a better balance. There was one moment though that really caught my attention where the parents, I forget where they were. I feel like they were in like a Norway or Iceland, somewhere in like where you can see the aurora borealis, and the three children, they couldn't, the 3 out of 4 children could not see it. And I think that was a really big crucial part in the storyline where the parents were like, wow, what, how can we like describe it to them? And I think, yeah, I feel like there could have been a little bit more in the film though.
And I don't know how much of that is because of our circumstance, what we've seen before, what we've been
Yeah.
through our own selves, what we're expected to go through. So you start putting your impressions on what it could be, as opposed to just being a basic bare bones. I mean, if you took me on a trip like that as a child, I could see more than I can now. But that doesn't mean another child with retinitis pigmentosa. I mean, I have Leber's congenital, but they're kind of in that same genetic family to a degree. And at that time, eye conditions may be very similar for me versus someone else with it. But again, that's going to look different, just like having three children. Alicia, really interesting movie pick here, or documentary pick, and I'm kind of curious what others will think of it. And I think that you go into it, you have to, with an open mind, don't you? Especially in our
Yeah,
perspective.
absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And I think it just shows that disability and the way each family handles a diagnosis is very different.
Yeah.
I know for me, like I was only a baby, right? So my mom could have traveled when I lost my vision, but I don't think at 6 months old I would retain any of that. So,
Yes. It's an interesting concept. And I think for me, Fedora's off to the fact that we have this kind of choice now, instead of the preaching at this is what you do, this is what you don't do, this is the experience. We get somebody, a family, doing this, and really the reason is the vision loss. Let's do it now. Let's go out. Let's have fun, and let's show what it looks like. And you kind of have to step away a bit from the whole. What are you trying to tell us about vision loss? Well, maybe nothing. Maybe this is just those characters we say we'd like to see in a film, that it doesn't have to be all about
yeah.
the fact that this character is blind. They don't have to be blind for a particular reason to be in a TV series. Remember to check out our podcast, folks, from your platform of choice. Look for Kelly and Company, and if you would, give us a rating and review. We'd really appreciate that. I want to talk about the Richmond Art Gallery. Some really cool stuff going on over there. The Richmond Art Gallery in British Columbia explores the complicated relationship between art and the environment in two new exhibitions that are going on over there. Artist Persimmon Blackbridge will have her own solo exhibition running from January 18th to March 23rd, called Speak No Emergency. Persimmon, welcome to the program. Appreciate you taking time to jump on here with us today. Now, your exhibition focuses on the intersection of the climate crisis and social justice. For you, what does this mean?
Well, the climate crisis affects everything. like everything in our lives are like interconnected. We know that. And so, in terms of climate change, the people who are affected the first and the most by climate change are the people who are the most vulnerable:
Yes.
poor people, people with disabilities, people in like developing countries. And so you see things like the heat death incident in Vancouver, where over 400 people died in the heat dome. Um, Most of those people were poor. Most of those people had disabilities. Most of those people were older people. And so it is really connected because the most vulnerable are the most vulnerable.
Right. Okay.
Um, Persimmon, I just want to take this moment to say it's an honor meeting you. I study your work in my bachelor's degree that I'm currently getting.
Thank
One of the
you.
questions, yeah, one of the questions I have for you is for this specific exhibit. What are the materials that you work with, and can you describe them?
Yeah, I work with basically it's based in wood and wood carving, but I use a lot of found objects. A lot of my wood is found on the beach and stuff. A lot of I use a lot of disassembled darts. I use all kinds of beautiful trash from our local recycling depot. I live on Hornby Island, that's a little island off the west coast of BC, and my neighbors all know what I do. So, if they find a dead bird, they'll bring it to me, and I might bury it and let it decompose and use the skeleton. Or I might be walking on the beach and I find the jawbone of a seal. Or I might be at the recycling depot and I see a little thermocoupling that looks really beautiful. And I combine all kinds of found objects with my wood carving, and I make
Amazing.
figures out of them. Um, and in this exhibition, there's about 150 figures on 16 panels, and
Wow.
they're all like groups of people reacting to different parts of climate change. Like for us out in BC, we've had like summer after summer after summer of like thick smoke in the air. Different towns and cities have been evacuated because of forest fires. Um, our oceans are like full of plastic. Um, and the problem with heat killing people or disabling people is something that recurs summer after summer. So we see the effects of climate change around us all the time. It's really undeniable.
Yeah. Speaking of how you have over 150 pieces in the exhibit, can you give an example of a piece within those 150, or maybe
Well,
describe it?
I have a panel that's called Beetle Kill that's about
Mm.
the pine beetle epidemic, which is a natural recurring cycle in BC's
Right.
forests. But because of global warming, because the climate is warmer, um, the way that the beetles are usually killed off by frost has not happened. And so there was a terrible epidemic. And I was driving through the interior at the time that was happening and saw hillside after hillside of dead trees that were just turned red with like pines with red needles, and it was so disturbing. So I have a panel called Beetle Kill, and the wood that I use in that panel is wood that's been killed by the pine beetle, and it has a characteristic um, kind of blue gray streaking and holes in it. And there's one piece that has the legs of a Barbie doll, and they're bent as if they could be possibly sitting in a wheelchair, and then the
Oh,
torso and head and shoulders are carved from this beetle kill wood, and one of the hands is like cast nickel hand, and the other hand it is like a tiny doll hand. Um, so that's one piece, and
that's
shows you
incredible.
the variety of materials.
Wow, that's incredible. How does the work relate to your disability? I'm kind of curious there. I mean, that's wonderful description.
Um, well, in this piece in particular, the top of the head is cut off and then the head top is replaced, and I use that as a metaphor for people with any kind of neuroatypical
Ah,
things. And I have a learning disability, and it's really affected what I'm able to do in life.
wow.
I'm really good at some things, I'm really bad at other things, and it's not the usual kind of combination that you see. So I do refer to people who are neuroatypical by the head tops cut off. I don't feel like my disability has intersected with climate change as much as just the fact that I live on the West Coast intersects with climate change.
Yeah, you see the things around you for sure. Persimmon, before we
Yeah,
let you go, I mean, we could go on talking because this descriptions you're giving, the whole what you do and the recycling and finding things. There's so much to jump into, so we'll have to get you back. And I've got so many things I'd love to know. Good luck, first of all, too, with the exhibition. But would you mention any of the partnerships that should be mentioned quickly before we wrap you up?
yeah. Richmond has partnered with Tangled Art and Disability, which is a disability arts group based in Ontario.
Hmm.
And they have worked really hard to make the show as accessible as possible. So there's labels in Braille, there's a audio description tour that um, people who are blind or have low vision can take, so that they can get the description of the piece as they go around. And there's
Awesome.
one piece that's specially made to be touchable so that people can experience it through touch as well as visually.
Fantastic. Persimmon, thank you so much. Really appreciate the time, the discussion, and enlightening us on something so fantastic. Again, we'll love to talk to you again. Don't miss Persimmon Blackbridge's exhibition, Speak No Emergency, at the Richmond Art Gallery in BC. This is from January 18th through March 23rd. We welcome Nizreen back to join Alicia and I here because, Niz, you've got some poll results, and I'd love you to tee up our social media before we bring Alex in here.
Yeah, so we posted a poll question yesterday asking you guys, how do you classify waffles, pancakes, and crepes? And guys, it was a debate yesterday. So if you haven't watched the episode yesterday, get on that. So our options were breakfast foods, desserts, snacks, or other. And 75% said breakfast foods, and 25% said other. And Minnie St. Clair commented saying, I went with other for all of the above because I can have waffles or waffles and chicken or waffles with fruit. Waffles all
Ooh,
the way. So
yeah.
I know I should have said instead of other, all of the above. Like that is a good debate. So what do you think, Alicia?
I personally am a pancake girly. Um,
Same.
and yeah, and
I was the only
breakfast foods
pancake
are my
girl
favorite.
yesterday.
It was crazy,
Um,
Alicia,
I'm
because 62%, this is from, we were discussing this because of the new additions to, help me out, Niz.
It
Who are we
was
talking about? What restaurant?
wasn't it
Coffee.
Starbucks?
Starbucks, thank you.
Yeah,
And
yeah, they
and
had their
they said
bites.
on their survey more people were interested in the pancakes. So Rumya and I, however, prefer the waffles, and so you're helping out tilt it because we couldn't believe how much waffle discussion we had about it with Mark, and it was really interesting. I'm going to ask Alex Smyth to join us here too. Alex, are you pancakes, waffle, and where do you see this? Do you see any of these foods primarily only as a breakfast food? Now, again, we got into the discussion of savory dessert crepes, ice cream on waffles, those kinds of things. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. And I would say for the most part, they're going to be breakfast food. Even if you do like chicken and waffles, that's a brunch thing, right? So like it
Hmm.
still falls in line with the breakfast kind of meal. Now, that said, I do often have breakfast for dinner, and included in that is usually going to be pancakes. I think if I'm making it at home, I'm going pancakes just because they're easier to do at home. I don't have a waffle maker, but if I'm going out, I want something a bit more unique. I'm going with the waffles because when they're done right, they are delicious, and having those little pockets to soak up all the
Oh
maple
yeah.
syrup is something you can't beat.
I love
Hmm.
crepes. I really love the taste of them, but I always worry, will it be big enough? Pancakes became okay for dinner because of Shrove Tuesday. That's how as a kid, I liked it. That hey, it's cool. We can have pancakes. It's sort of like having dessert at breakfast, right?
Yeah,
Like, oh, let's have chocolate cake for breakfast.
but
Niz, anything else you got there? First of all, too, thank you, Minnie, for weighing in on that. Go ahead, Niz.
yeah. Well, first of all, I would classify crepes as a dessert, but waffles and pancakes is like an all of the above type of option, just
Okay.
personally. But yeah, you could also follow us on X and Instagram on Kelly and Co. AMI. Subscribe to us on YouTube and any podcast platform if you missed an episode. Like I said, big debate yesterday, so go and tune in on that.
It was a lot of fun and interesting. And Mark says, not bad additions to the Starbucks lineup there for this menu. I think the pancakes, waffles will stay. Some of the other cool things that we mentioned on the show may not. Thanks, Niz. We'll talk to you tomorrow. And Alicia and I now will find out what's coming up on Parasport Nation as they begin a new year. Alex, what's going on that program to launch the new year?
Yeah, well, obviously, new year, new calendar of Parasport events to get into. So we had a friend of the show and someone who is known to AMI Airways, Jenny Bovard, join us. And me, her, and Nathan, we broke down the top Parasport competition events, kind of highlights of 2025 that we're most looking forward to. So we kind of went coast to coast with this one. Nathan brought
Nice.
forward the Invictus Games taking place in Vancouver in, I believe it is February. Yes, it's February 8th to the 16th in Vancouver, BC. Jenny brought up a couple of events. The first one was the Montreal Invitational Goalball Tournament, and just
That's
the
February
how
too, isn't it?
that
Or is that
competition.
January? I'm trying. I think that's February, isn't it?
That one is the end of January, the 24th to
Okay.
the
Yep.
26th. Good, good on that one there, Kelly. You have your schedule. I
Ah,
could have brought you in and asked you about it as well, but
my God, it's
um,
because I used to play in it years ago, or in the
yeah.
like one that I think was its predecessor.
Well, and so Jenny talked about, like, because she has, as in her description, had basically attended almost half of the Montreal Open
Nice.
competitions. And she said this year they're going to be having a team from Mexico coming in. There's
wow.
18 teams competing in this Montreal
Whoa.
global competition. So that's huge, the growth of that competition. She
Yeah.
also
Beautiful.
mentioned there is a unique Tamarack Ottawa race weekend. And so this is taking place May 24th and 25th. And what was unique about this is they finally have para classifications. So if you're a visually impaired runner or if you have other disabilities, there's different classifications for the racers. So that was really
Beautiful.
unique. She wanted to highlight that.
Wow.
For me
That
personally,
is
I have
amazing.
my sights set on the Canada Summer Games in St. John's, Newfoundland. Such a unique competition. It brings the entire country together. A lot of amateur athletes competing, but there's also just able-bodied and para sport classifications all in this one massive competition. You got para swimming, para cycling, and para athletics to represent the para sport community. It's such an exciting event, and
Beautiful.
it's the next
Wow.
wave of
Wow.
athletes.
What a bunch of stuff. We'll learn a lot more about them next up here on the network. Stay tuned. You can find, of course, Parasport Nation on YouTube, just like ourselves. Thanks a lot, Alex. Folks, you can email us at kellyco@ami.ca. Alicia Grace, appreciate you being with us on the program. Call us, folks, 1-866-509-4545. On our next program, Francis Wong brings us into the practice of Haibu Ga. This is a serene way to cozy up during the cold months. Kevin Shaw has the 2024 companies that just didn't make it. And Lucia Belafonte motivates us to create a parenting family goals list. We'll get into those conversations on the next edition of Kelly and Company.
Thanks for tuning in to Kelly and Company. Follow us on all social media, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more.